Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. This episode is also brought to you by Peghead Nation, the home of roots music instruction. If you want to improve your playing, join me and thousands of other pickers getting better every day at pegheadnation.com. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday, 27th of January 2025. And if you missed it, check out the interview I had last week with Daniel Kimbro. Great chat. He plays bass for Jerry Douglas and for Transatlantic Sessions, but also has a really cool new solo record on the way called Carpet in the Kitchen. Really fun chat all about Transatlantic Sessions, about those songs, about writing, about playing murder ballads, about kind of the stuff that Daniel does to kind of keep balance when he's on tour. Fascinating, really interesting chat. So that is out there now, go and find it. Also, I've got another episode coming this week, and I've sort of mentioned before that after the Chris Eldridge chat about Baylor's Drive record, I've been inviting some people back onto the podcast and asking them to pick a record they love, and we'll talk about that. And I did that last week with Eric Skye, who you might remember I interviewed a couple of years ago. Fascinating guitarist, really nice guy, cool musician, really interesting kind of chat to him about music. And he has picked the first Phillips, Greer and Flinner record, which I love, and I know a lot of you do. That was a really interesting chat, and that will be out on Wednesday, talking all about that album and why he loves it so much. So do check back in on Wednesday for that. But that is it in terms of podcast news for now. Let's move on to news and announcements, which is the Church Street News section. And there's some interesting stuff coming up. David Grisman is turning 80 this year, and there's a special event called Dog at 80, which is Sam Grisman and an all-star lineup with David Grisman. It's on March the 25th at the Moore Theatre in Seattle, and it will feature David himself performing new compositions and Sam Grisman playing a retrospective of earlier Dog music with accompaniment of Darryl Anger, Danny Barnes, Alex Hargraves, Dominic Leslie, Mike Marshall, Ronnie McCory, Todd Phillips and more. That sounds really cool. Be a great thing to get to see. So check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Sierra Farrell has announced a load of dates on her Shoot for the Moon tour. Running sort of from April through the year, so I'll put a link in the show notes too. Go and check that out, go and see one of those shows. And coming up at the Earl Scruggs Centre in Shelby, North Carolina, is the Earl Experience Banjo Camp, which runs March 7th and 8th, and features Bill Evans, Tony Trishka and Kristen Scott Benson, which is a really cool lineup. Talked to a couple of those people on the podcast, and they were both great guests, and I'm sure will be really cool banjo tutors. It looks like a really interesting event. That I'll put a link to the Earl Scruggs Centre's website so you can check out the details. But that's the David Grisman 80th birthday concert, Sierra Farrell's tour dates, and the Earl Experience Banjo Camp. Lots of cool stuff going on at the moment. There is also some new music out, so we will follow that in a sec with The Grass is New. And new music this week. First up, there's a new album from Deeper Shade of Blue called Change of Scenery, which is out on all the streaming services. It was produced by Doyle Lawson. And Deeper Shade of Blue, I almost saw them at IBMA. I arrived a day late last year to see them. And it's the band that Frank Poindexter plays in. Frank is uncle to the Rice Brothers, Tony, Larry, Wyatt and Ron. And I know Frank's daughter Julie, bumped into her at a gig over in the UK last year. She was out with a sort of mutual friend, and I saw her out at RBMA, and I was really looking forward to see them, but I'd arrived a day late and I didn't get a chance to see them. But their new record is out now, so do go and check that out. Deepest Shade of Blues, Change of Scenery. I've stuck a track in the Grass is Mostly New playlist, so go and have a listen to that. There's also new single from Sister Sadie, been out a couple of weeks now, I think, called If I Don't Have You, which is also in the playlist. And there's a new single from Laura Orshaw featuring Slocum Ramblers, Red Bandana. I love Laura's fiddle playing and Laura's voice. She's got a great voice for country music. Really enjoy listening to anything of hers. So check that out as well. And a new single from Aaron Ramsey called Oklahoma, which is also on the playlist now. So there's, a new album from Deeper Shade of Blue, new Sister Sadie single, the Laura Orshaw and Slocum Ramblers single, and the Aaron Ramsey single as well. Do go and check all of those out and have a listen to the Grass is Mostly New playlist, which is filling up nicely now after a few weeks of stuff. It's all in there. Go check it out. And that leads us on to Scroll On Buddy, which is just something I've spotted on social media and thought you might be interested in. And what I spotted this week is that Billy Strings has 2 signature Martin guitars out. Really interesting. It's like 2 different models, 2 different price points. But interesting to see Billy working with Martin. He has a signature D28 and a DX2E. And that's sort of cool because the D28 retails $3,799. And the DX2E is $899, and that's just an interesting kind of mix of price points. Billy's got a pretty diverse audience and quite a young audience, and no doubt is inspiring a lot of people to play guitar. So to have something at a lower price point is a cool thing if people want to own, a Billy style guitar. And the interesting thing about these 2 models is they've both got a 25-inch scale length, which is described on the Martin site as sort of facilitating slightly lower string tension, and therefore that's sort of lightning fast playing. But Billy's the kind of person that people will want a signature model from, and it's nice that they've done one at 2 different price points, not just a kind of higher end model. Be interesting to see how they sell. That is it for this week. Just the last bit is the In My Ears This Week bit, and unsurprisingly, chatting to Eric Sky about Phillips Greer and Flinner, I've been listening back to that record. I'm just enjoying it so much. I mean, I sort of knew it before, but it's a chance to listen in a bit more depth, and I'm going to have to talk about it and sit there with the headphones on and just dig in. And it's one of the great things about this podcast is it, like, forces is too strong a word, but it enables me to listen to a bunch of music, some new stuff, and revisit some old stuff and listen in a kind of way that maybe I hadn't. And it's it's just a gift that keeps on giving, and I love that Phillips Greer and Flinner album. So do go and have a listen to that yourself and check out the episode on Wednesday. That is it. I will see you all next time. Have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.